Hello everyone, and welcome to my 2018 Inktober Sketchbook tour. This is, I think, the second time filming and talking at the same time, so let's hope everything goes well, and I don't have to refilm it too many times. First, I'm going to go over all the tools I used to create these illustrations, then we'll dive into the sketches. So, main thing that I used was these micron pens. I have a bunch of different sizes. Actually, show you a bunch of different sizes of micron pens. And that's the main thing I used for most of the illustrations. Some of the illustrations I actually used a dip pen. Can't see the camera from here, so I hope I'm holding it close enough that you can see. And I haven't used a dip pen too many times before, so I thought this was a really good time to practice. And I think I got pretty good at the dip pen. I used a couple different types of ink with it. I used this Higgins calligraphy ink. It's waterproof, and it actually is pretty good to use with alcohol-based markers as well. You can't go over the lines too many times, but you can go over it a couple times without it smearing. Unlike microns, which will bleed when you use alcohol markers over top, this will not. Another one that I used was this Liquitex acrylic ink. I have a couple different colors of this. Most of my colored illustrations, I use this ink. There's a couple of them that I use the alcohol markers, but I think there's only four days that I use the alcohol markers. The rest of the time, if it's got color, it's the Liquitex ink. And for the special effects and cleanup work, I use this Dr. P.H. Martin's the pen white for cleanup and to do stars and any white details. And I also have this gold, you can see that, gold ink. It's one of their iridescent calligraphy colors. It's supposed to be copper plate gold, so it's got kind of a reddish tone to it. And I'm still learning how to use these with the dip pen. They're a little bit thicker than the other inks, so I have a time with trying to keep from making drips and spills and stuff. I'm still learning these. Like I said, I used all those with my dip pen, and I also used, stay over there, dip pen, stay. I also used a couple of paint brushes. I used my watercolor brushes. I think these are both Creative Mark brand. Pretty much any round brushes work just fine. And I've been talking about the alcohol markers. The alcohol markers that I use are Spectrum Noir markers. They're pretty inexpensive. They're definitely not as good as Copics or some of the higher end brands, but I like them pretty well. I mean, they're the ones that I have the most of. I don't actually own a Copic. I have used Copics before, but I don't actually own one. And the other markers that I used are these Faber-Castell. And I really like these. I've had these for so long. I got these back in high school, and they still work just fine. I used these for a couple of the black and white illustrations that I wanted to add values to. I used these. And for sketching, mechanical pencil and Prismacolor colored pencils. That's pretty much what I use all the time anyways. So that's all the tools that I use. Now let's get into the sketchbook. I'm going to try to insert some video footage of me actually working on the pieces here and there in the videos, since I did try to film bits and pieces of many of the illustrations. They're not in order in this book, so I'm going to have to flip back and forth quite a bit. So here is day 1. I have little Stuart here trapped inside a sphere of ink. I really want to turn this into like a Christmas ornament and get it printed on those like acrylic blanks that they use to make keychains. I think that would turn out really well. I might actually try to turn this into a pin as well, because, you know, I've got the button press. I might as well try to make a pin out of it too. But anyways, I wanted to revisit last year's theme, which was focused around 4 of my original characters. I used this as an opportunity to test myself and see how much I had improved from last year. I do draw Stuart quite often, so it really wasn't much of a test here. But I think there are some of my characters that I haven't drawn since last year. Here we go. Here's day 2. And I have a speed paint of this if you want to check it out. This is a little dragon and a crystal egg. I imagine that when he hatches, he will be all sparkly and super shiny like a crystal. I just feel sorry for the mom that had to lay the egg. Ouch. Day 3. We have a realistic version of Kane from last year's Inktober. He's my little raven character. I actually took 2 days to work on this because I knew it was going to be a challenge. So I started work on this the same day that I did the dragon illustration. Day 4. I wanted to play around with dramatic landscapes and emphasize the size of like the canyon by putting a little small hiker in there. It's like she's on an adventure. Day 5. Another one of my original characters. And you can see I have a lot of sketch lines here because I had not drawn this character since last year. So I had to kind of figure out how I drew her all over again. This is Tuya. She's from a comic that I was starting to work on last year, but had to set aside for a while till I got enough time to finish a good chunk of it. I've definitely improved on my people drawing skills, at least being able to draw a character consistently and have them look the same. And day 6. A funny little illustration. I like making humorous art. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that. The caption I used for this one was, "Oops, I inked." I don't know what startled her, but she's quite embarrassed about her reaction. Day 7. This is another one of my original characters, Jules. I did the initial sketch in my sketchbook and then finished illustrating it on this vellum Bristol paper because it's much smoother and easier to use the dip pen on. And I don't know if anyone remembers my illustration of her from last year, but I mentioned that she is an avid plant collector. So she takes a plant from every planet that they visit, and here she is with her shovel and pots, ready to go and dig up a few specimens to take with her. There, you can see it. Day 8. I was having a hard time coming up with a creative piece because I kind of exhausted myself on the previous ones coming up with humorous ideas. So I was having a hard time thinking up a fun piece, so I decided to play around with some geometric designs that seem to be pretty popular right now. I like drawing space stuff, like space-themed art, so I did kind of planets, and like the outside is a night scene, and inside here is just the planets. This is the only piece that I delved into without sketching anything for it. There's a video for this one on my channel as well. It's actually technically 2 illustrations that I combined into one, and you'll see how I do that on that video. I just went straight in with water and I did the little outline, and then I just dropped the ink onto it, and then I went in and painted all the little soot sprites and little extra things. Definitely going to be prints of this one soon. Whenever I can get a hold of my favorite print paper. They are out of stock right now, so I have to wait. but once I get a hold of that paper, I will be making prints of this one. Alright, day 10. Now, this one is one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite illustration of all Inktober. I wanted to do a little piece with my newest character, the little orange dragon, which if you watch my stop motion videos, you've already seen him. You may have seen this picture that I posted to Instagram a while back. This was the image that inspired me to make him the king of the dragons. I had so much fun with this illustration. Like I said, this was my favorite. I loved coming up with the different designs for the dragons. And of course, him and his little crown is just so cute. I love him. He's so sassy. I just love him. And we go from my absolute favorite to one of my least favorite. Actually, it is my least favorite of my Inktober illustrations. I don't say I hate it because I don't hate it. There are things I like about it. But it's my least favorite. I didn't turn out the way I had imagined, and I shouldn't have used my brush pen for the outlines. I should have used the graphic liner because the lines ended up being way too thick. But I was halfway through it when I realized this, but I made the best of it. I do like how the dog turned out, and I think he kind of makes up for any of my other mistakes. Day 12. Another really fun illustration. I knew I wanted to do an illustration like this with all of the little images making up a bigger image or a shape. And I knew I wanted to use an animal, but I couldn't decide which one I wanted to do. And finally, I just went with the most flexible and noodly one, and that would be the otter. And I'm very pleased with it. I might be turning this one into a watercolor illustration and making some prints of this one as well. Now, day 13. It's actually the sketch of it. Get the final piece out. Here's the final illustration. Another nerdy piece. This is Serenity from the Firefly series, and the ship took me a couple of tries. There's actually 2 pages of sketches for this one because I don't draw a lot of machinery or mechanical things. But I am very pleased with the final result. I think I got the best colors out of this piece, at least with the ink. This paper, even though it did warp it a little bit, it took the ink really well and it stayed very vibrant. So I'm very pleased with this one. There's definitely going to be prints of this one. Like I said, once I get hold of that good print paper that I like, I will be making prints of most, if not all, of my Inktober illustrations. Day 14. A little sleepy owl. Really not too much thought behind it other than I just wanted to draw a sleep-deprived owl. I wanted to go for, I don't really know what that style's called, where it's cartoony, but it's also slightly creepily realistic cartoony. Very detailed cartoons to where they're almost unsettling. I tried to go for that, but I can't really do unsettling art. It's just gotta be funny or cute. That's just how I roll. Day 15. I played around with using only a single color with no outline. For this one, I've seen it with a lot of Inktober illustrations and I really like the look of it, so I tried it for myself. And 16 is also that, that, and I wanted to draw curly hair. But 16 is also the same thing. I did like a blocked in the color and didn't use any outlines. And then I went back in with a pen and added all the details and stuff over top. And I'm very pleased with how these turned out. I want to do more like this. I want to do like a series of girls in a bunch of different outfits and use different colors. I think that would be really fun to do. Alright, day 17. And I the day before I'd gone to a bird park or bird sanctuary, and I'd been to it a couple times before, and I love birds, so I took a bunch of photos and was feeling in the mood to sketch some of the birdies, so I did. Alright, day 18. I didn't have a lot of time this day to actually do an illustration, so I went small to save some time, and I had seen some resin pieces that look like flooded post-apocalyptic cities, and I was inspired to draw this after seeing those. I put some little whales in, some jellyfish, some just regular fish, some seagulls. I wanted to keep the color all down in here and just have no color up there. I do like how it turned out. I wish I had had more time to work on one and I could have done a bigger, more elaborate illustration. I may revisit this at some point in the future and redraw it and make it much more impressive. Day 19. And here's the sketch for it, and here is the final illustration. I also have a speed paint for this one as well. I'll try to put all the links to the speed paints in the description so that you can check them out if you missed them this month. And this is a redraw of an illustration that I did about a year ago, a little over a year ago. And I wanted to revisit it because I really liked the illustration at the time, and just kind of update my speed paint because that was actually the first speed paint that I ever made. So yeah, I wanted to do an updated version of it because I was very pleased with, you know, all the little characters I came up with, like the little mice with the glowing eyes, and I wanted to play around with using just one color or very limited colors, and I really like it. I like the purple. I like how it turned out. It's more of like values rather than colors. And like I said in the video, I kind of want to redraw this one every year and see how elaborate I can make it every year. Where is it at? Where is it? Okay, here we go. Day 20. What can I say? I don't like spiders. That's pretty much the inspiration for this. I don't like spiders. Since I don't draw spiders, I had to look up a couple references for this guy, and I have to say it was very difficult for me to look at those references. I didn't look at them for very long. Alright, and next we have a little illustration that I did of myself with Stuart and the little orange dragon, though this looks nothing like me. I mean, I've got the curly hair and the glasses, but the profile does not look like me. I think I'm going to actually edit this a little bit and maybe redraw it so that it actually looks a little bit more like me, and then use it as like a header photo for my social media like Facebook and YouTube. I think that would be really cute, because I want to put Little Orange Dragon and Stuart all over everything in my life, because I just love those two so much. Day 22. Here's the sketch, and here's the final illustration. Everyone loves pumpkin spice. Well, not me, but everyone else does. At least this dragon does. I drew a shocking amount of dragons during this Inktober, way more than is normal for me. I have to say I quite enjoy drawing them. I might have to draw more in the future. Not just the little orange dragon, though I do draw a lot of him. But yeah, he's kind of a hipster dragon enjoying his coffee in the local coffee shop. And as you can tell, he broke the chair and knocked over the table. They don't make furniture for dragons. Day 23. Little puddles of starlight. Again, I like drawing stars and space-themed art, so this was really fun to work on. I wanted the little girl to look very Studio Ghibli inspired. She didn't end up looking like that at all, but I'm okay with it. She still looks cute. I like her little boots and her little raincoat. Day 24 is actually on 2 different pages. We have page 1 and we have page 2. Everyone struggles with art block from time to time, and I was having some major art block and could not draw a thing. So I just made little blobs on my paper and created funny cartoonish images from them. This is actually really fun to do and really helpful to do if you're having major art block. That way you don't have to come up with an idea, you just put blobs down on the paper, and if something comes to you, it comes to you, and you just sketch over top of it. I actually looked up an art prompt for this one, and the prompt was, "We are not lost." So I got this idea for a group of ordinary hikers somehow wandering into a creepy forest with giant mushrooms and man-eating plants. I love this guy's expression. I mean, his expression was definitely rendered the best, but his expression is hilarious. Day 26. I really love this one. Even though I had absolutely no idea where it was going when I first started it. I had no idea. I just started sketching a head, like I just did the oval for the head, and then I just kind of started sketching from there, and it ended up morphing into this. Alright, day 27. A cute little budgie. Absolutely adorable. Inspired by the many bird videos I watch on YouTube. You watch your cat videos, I watch my bird videos. And 28, we have a Canadian vampire, or just a maple syrup drinking vampire. This is my kind of vampire. I don't know where this idea came from. No idea. But I thought it was funny, so I went with it. Day 29, I actually did a prompt for this one as well, and the prompt was blind date. I immediately knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to have one of them be an animal. I threw in some fun little clues in the dating profile, like her last name being Varanus, which is the genus name for the monitor lizard, and the fact that her passions are entomology, the study of bugs or the eating of bugs, and sunbathing. Now, day 30. Da-da-da-dum. I just had to do it. I'm sorry. I just had to do it. I love these guys. Morticia and Gomez are the ultimate relationship goals. I mean, they might be a bit odd, but they're an amazing couple. Awesome parents and just generally kind and good people to everyone they meet. I definitely prefer the old TV show to the newer movies, so I modeled the illustration after the original actors. This was Tuesday's speed paint, so you can check that out. Again, I'll try to leave links in the description to all of the speed paints. Last but not least, day 31, the final day of Inktober. Here is the sketch, and here is the final illustration. This one was actually supposed to be the speed paint for the previous day, but I had a little accident. I was impatient, and I did not pay attention to whether my ink was dry, and I went to swipe my hand across the page to get some eraser dust off, and tragedy struck. So, yeah, I managed to fix it as best I could. I used some of the pen white ink, but I still had to wait a couple hours for it to dry. So I had to resort to using my Halloween sketch, which was Morticia and Gomez, as the speed paint. It all ended up being okay in the end. It was fine. And I managed to get the marker to go over that ink pretty well. And I also fixed it up a little bit on the computer, so it's even harder to tell. So there we have it. all my Inktober illustrations from 2018. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want to see more sketchbook tours, since I've got a few sketchbooks that are finished or nearly finished that I've been working on over the last year or so. Anyways, hope you have a great day. Bye.